Hello ladies and gentlemen, Xentorogaming here and welcome back to another Infinite Flight YouTube video. Now in today's video I'll be counting down with you the top 5 aircraft in Infinite Flight as of 2021 end of June. So let's see what I have to say. I'll start us off in 5th place is the Airbus A350. Now if I do remember correctly, this was the first aircraft or commercial aircraft to have a live cockpit within Infinite Flight. Now this magnificent aircraft to the sky, it is amazing, I love it. It's got amazing wing flex, wingtips on it, crazy. There is a fine attention to detail and there are many liveries. Now unfortunately for me there are a few things that don't make this aircraft as good as the other 4 aircraft on my list. One of those being the interior of the plane. It is like a black void, there is nothing inside of the aircraft. Now of course that is a bit of a letdown for Infinite Flight, but of course with it being one of their first modernised or more reworked aircraft within the flight simulator, is very good and it has done well to make it onto the 5th place on my top 5 list here. So yeah, it is also an amazing plane. It is easy to butter as well, get a smooth landing, not too hard to do that with. Sometimes I have to use the HUD for it, which is cool. But the cockpit in it is great detail. As far as I'm aware, I don't think much of it moves inside the cockpit other than maybe the yoke and the throttle. But other than that, it is an amazing aircraft and definitely deserves a place on my top 5 list. Now let's move on to what's second on my top 5 list, or 4th place. Now, in 4th place on the list is the Boeing 737-800. Now I'm being specific with the types of aircraft, so in the 737s I think there's either 4 types of them in Infinite Flight. I'm specific today with the 737-800. Now I'm a bit biased because I do love the Pegasus Airlines livery. Now it's a bit of a weird one, it's very plain and basic, but that livery, I like it. I really like the EasyJet livery as well, where it just has EasyJet written on it. On the A320 I think, or 19 in Infinite Flight, but yeah, the 737-800. Now there are a wide variety of liveries, which I think is what made it top the other 2 aircraft within Infinite Flight, alongside of course the Pegasus livery, which I'm a big fan of, like I mentioned. Now, in one of the 2020 updates, I believe the 737 got reworked and it was given a live cockpit. Now, I think it's amazing. Unfortunately, inside of the aircraft there is literally no inside, so it's a bit worse than the A350 in that sense, but it did manage to top the A350 on my list due to the fact of I'm just a bit biased here. So some people may be able to debate that, but I definitely think between the A350 and the 737 they are definitely 4th and 5th on my list. For sure. The 737 is definitely a bit of a harder aircraft to get a smooth landing, because of course you don't really get gear tilt with that single set of gears at the back of the aircraft. But of course, all in all, it is a lovely aircraft to fly. It's great for flying across America, I think, personally. Lots of people fly across the United States. It's also good for some cool flights in Europe. Not many people use the Ryanair stuff and that, but I do think it is great for those airlines as well within Europe. So if you're hopping between Europe and America, do longer 3-4 hour flights, then this is the plane I definitely recommend for that. Now moving on into 3rd place on the list. Now this is one that I don't think many of you would have seen coming. It's actually the X-Cub. Now if you're a fan of general aviation in general, this is your plane in Infinite Flight, the X-Cub. Now I'm pretty sure the developers of Infinite Flight definitely have a bit of bias to it, because I do believe some of them do fly the X-Cub or not. I may be wrong. But it was definitely, I believe, one of the first general aviation aircraft, or might have been the first aircraft in Infinite Flight to have a live cockpit. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments. But in general, it's got pretty much most features that these big commercial airliners have in Infinite Flight. It's got the live cockpit, it's got the moving doors, even the cockpit within the X-Cub, the buttons move and everything, which I think is cool. And they've got all of the small bits of detail which the X-Cub can have. I'm pretty sure there's also a tug car, whatever they're called. Again, I'm awful with names at the moment. A pushback tug, that's it, for the X-Cub within Infinite Flight. I'm pretty sure it's got a little personal small one of them. But I think the X-Cub is amazing. It's definitely a hard aircraft to land. I honestly haven't perfected it, but of course it's like a practice. I don't really fly it that much, because when I'm on Infinite Flight I tend to do some either longer flights or, well yeah, much longer than you would have the X-Cub out for. I think as Infinite Flight progresses, hopefully if we look to in the future having if Infinite Flight would add a small area of Canada or somewhere scenic, where they put maybe some trees in, where you could just specifically fly the X-Cub, I think that would be a great addition to the flight simulator. So find an area maybe north with Canada where it snows sometimes, or where it's just some amazing big greenery. I think that would be lovely for some bush flights with the X-Cub. That's definitely something I hope Infinite Flight look to add in the future. So definitely, all in all, I think the X-Cub deserves a place on this list. Some of you will definitely disagree with third, but I think third is a solid position. As Infinite Flight, they're not biased to just commercial airlines. Like, for example, we have the F-18 currently in rework or development at the moment, which is going to be phenomenal when it comes out as well. So hopefully they look towards doing something like that in the short future, adding in a bit of the world in Infinite Flight with some trees where you can do bush flights in the X-Cub. So yeah, that is something I definitely hope to see in the near future. Now we're going to move on to second place. So we are in second place in the list. Now I think there are two aircraft some of you might have in mind that might make this list down for that final two spots. There's definitely aircraft that have honourable mentions, which I'll say at the end, but there's definitely two aircraft. Now second place, I'm being very specific here, and I've gone for the 777, but the freight one, so the cargo version of the 777. Now some of you be like, what, why? And I think it's definitely, I prefer flying it to the other 777s. I think there's a great wide variety for liveries, considering like there are less cargo airlines than commercial airlines within the simulator, but I think that just the wide range of cargo liveries that you can fly. There's also the accommodations in the airports now for the cargo ramps and everything, and they've like got the specific cargo loading machine things that you can get attached, and I think that has definitely contributed to my reason to why it's top of the list. I feel like if we didn't have 3D airports, it'd be like the 777-200 or 300, but I hope you guys can understand why I put the freight as second on my list. It also, so I remember it came out the 737 live cockpit when they fully reworked the 777, so it has a live working cockpit. It's got seats, I believe, the normal 777, but I think the freight actually has a full-on cargo hold down below that you can look at, which again is another great addition to the game or simulator. So I think it definitely deserves a spot above the X-Cub 737 and the A350, so it deserves that spot if you ask me. It's great for long haul flights. It's even great for short haul flights. Like I've once flown from Istanbul to London, England in like proper real life, and we were on a 777. So it's even good for small 4-hour flights that airlines use it for. I'm pretty sure like Emirates probably use it for a few hour flights from like Dubai to Mumbai or Karachi, like small flights like that. So the 777 is very diverse, and it can almost fulfill, like if I'm doing a long haul overnight sleep, I generally hop on to the 777. Okay, and now we are on to the final aircraft on this list. Now, it might be slightly biased, some of you might disagree with this, but I think this aircraft definitely deserves top spot on the list. And that is the Airbus A350. Now, this aircraft I wanted an Infinite Flight for years. Since I first played the simulator, I was like, I want the A350. And if you ask me, it's the best plane in the game. It has, of course, a live cockpit. It's one of the newest aircraft. It's got the cabin. It just looks really cool. The detail on it is amazing. I think everything about this plane is pretty much spot on. I wasn't too sure actually if it's got like, I know it's got a live cockpit. I wasn't sure if like the seatbelt flick thing goes on or off. Who knows? But I think this aircraft definitely deserves top spot on my list. In comparison to the A350, so it's got the cabin inside, which makes it better compared to the 737 as well. I think the cabin bit definitely ups it, and I just think the detail on it on the outside is better than 737. The X-Cub, it's just not as good as the A220, and that's my opinion. It's just I prefer the plane. And the 777 freight, again, I just think the detail on the outside of the aircraft on the A220 is better than 777 freight, which is why I've put this at the top of my list. Of course, by far, it is my favourite aircraft in the flight simulator, so hopefully more planes like this will come along. I think it's the ATR 75 or whatever I'm after next, but I definitely have done several flights to the A220, and I'll probably do another one once I finish editing and recording this video in the A220. I was hoping there'd be a few more livery options for it, but of course there are hundreds of livery options already for the A220 in Infinite Flight, so I think it's got a bright future ahead of it. And I like the small stuff where they've got like the Bombardier, I think, and the Airbus livery on it, which are two liveries because it was never owned by Airbus, for those of you who don't know. So I think great addition with the liveries, and lots of thought has gone into it. So, if you did like this top 5 list, please make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you again in my next YouTube video. Good night.
Find your way.